accurate and precise decision making if they're going to be able to upset Wildcard here. What they did against Radiance is not going to work again today. So we'll see if they're able to make those adjustments. We'll see if they're able to change things up and play a little cleaner. But we're getting into pick and ban here, and we already see a ban away. Tristana take it away from Blinks because despite a couple of questionable jumps, still a monster on that champion yesterday.
Yeah, played it in both of their wins yesterday against Radiance, and another strong player here in Lynx having to go against Arrow here in the bottom lane. So this is the test for the collegiate superstar. How can he do against one of the top players in NA? Wildcard's going to respond with, Supernova's going to respond with a Renekton ban as Viego gets taken away by Wildcard. Supernova did have side selection, did elect to go for that red side, and it really speaks a lot towards what they want to go for in the draft. Cozy and Strompus having a lot of flexibility between their champion pools. It'll be interesting to see how they manage to use those flex picks and work for the counters.
Yeah, and usually when you're picking red side selection, it's because you are gunning for a red side counter pick in a solo lane. That's really the biggest power of red side draft. It's what makes you the team that wants to be on red side, and that already signals a little bit about their game plan. You know, when you're going into game one, the default is always blue. It has a higher win rate in general. Yeah. For reasons that are sometimes hard to explain. First pick, of course, very powerful if there's a meta pick that you think you want to snag 100%. We don't see anything dominating the meta right now that kind of has that niche right now. I guess Morgana Jungle's the closest thing. It hasn't been banned yet, so might be expecting to see Wildcard locking that in if they're not going to ban it away. But last pick, it can counterpick top, it can counterpick mid. You can use that to get some early priority, play with your jungler, and try and generate a lead in one of those solo lanes.
So the Morgana is left open, but the Rumble has been taken away by Supernova. So Rumble, without Rumble in this champion pool, we could see something like that Gwen. Bradley is an exceptional Gwen player, and this is a really exciting pickup for him. But because that was picked up first, Supernova are going to get the Lee Sin and Morgana, which are two very strong picks.
Yeah, you see Supernova kind of making the gambit play here where they say, we'll give you one power pick, but because we get two picks right after, we'll get the next two. These are kind of the three most priority picks in the meta right now. I'd say the three of them are what teams tend to go for when they can get them. The solo lane Lee Sin, just a little too good. The jungle Morgana still has that clear speed, both getting nerfed in the upcoming patch. So they're getting in their last couple games on these picks while they're still as powerful as they are. And Wildcard going to answer right back with the Udyr and Varus.
Yep, the Udyr, the other quote-unquote OP jungler to match alongside the Morgana and the Rumble. Varus also going to get picked up for Wildcard, going down towards Arrow. It was banned away from him in game one of their series against AoE randoms. Supernova will respond with the Nautilus, a champion that Daption has played a lot, so they're going to get a pick away from them here. Papa Chow did play that in one of their games as well yesterday. And now that we're headed into the second phase of bans, a bit of disparity in the picks. Mid laner not picked up yet for Supernova, and support not picked up yet for Wildcard.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see where this Gwen is going. Of course, she was released as a top laner, but we've seen her in different roles despite that. I've seen her mid, I've seen her top, I've seen her jungle. Obviously not going to be jungle with the Udyr locked in, but it is one of those picks that can get sent to the mid lane or to the top lane if it makes sense. So, bit of a flex. I'd be expecting it more topside, but you can always watch out for that. So, Supernova kind of priced into banning away the supports. That way they don't waste a ban on a solo lane that's already been locked in. They're going to be getting rid of the Braum and the Kench that would protect that Varus. And that's going to mean that the Varus is going to be a lot more exposed. These are kind of the two most defensive supports to peel for a mobile AD carry. And when you don't have that peel, Varus can be a lot more easy to dive onto. And when you're looking at a Nautilus, you're looking at a Lee Sin, you can drop that depth charge, you can land that Sonic Wave, and if either of those connect, Varus is going to die. There is not the champion to save his life here. Lulu's kind of the next best available pick, and she's just not that good at it. So I'm curious to see how Wildcard will adapt to that. They're, of course, going to ban away 80 carries. And Supernova, wow.
That is not something you see every day. Jhin going over to Lynx down in the bot lane to match up against the Varus. Going to provide a strong lane alongside the Nautilus to go against somebody like this Varus who does enjoy scaling, building towards some of those lethality items. And as you said, there's going to be hard for Wildcard to pick a more supportive support, so to speak, because that Braum and Tahm Kench were taken away. So it'll be interesting to see what Daption decides to pick up. Is comfortable on things like the Thresh or the Galio even, but the Nocturne is going to be locked in. Still the potential for that flex.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of those picks that can go top, can go mid. We've seen it both plenty of times. It kind of works well in mid lane into melee matchups, especially. It can work top lane into tanks with the extra sustain. So I like that. I like that they're kind of going to wait and see what they want to send to each lane. I'm also interested in this Rel pick. This kind of looks like a composition that's going to go in no matter what. It's Nocturne goes in, Udyr goes in, Rel goes in. Varus going to be left alone in the back line. Maybe not the ideal 80 carry to suit this wildcard composition, but he can make fights happen if he's going to be playing on the front foot.
The Rel is going to be locked in for Deption, one of his most played champions last split, and Supernova will last pick that Cassiopeia. Now, of course, due to the Nocturne and Gwen being super flexible between themselves, not entirely sure where they will go. But Strumpus, this Cassiopeia pick is something that he always has up his sleeve, something that can really do so much damage if the resources are pummeled into him. And the style of gameplay that Supernova has traditionally gone for is to work around that mid-jungle duo. So if they get Strumpus ahead, will be really impactful in these later stages.
Yeah, and I like this Cassiopeia pick because it works really well into a lot of the wildcard pickups. You know, there's 4 different champions that basically have to run at you. They have 4 melees in their composition. Only the one Varus has a range carry at all. And that means that the Petrifying Gaze is going to be finding value in this game. It's really excellent into Udyr, it's great into Nocturne, it's great into Rel. If any one of them tries to run in and go onto this Cassiopeia, she can stun them up, she can do some damage, she can melt them. She has the DPS necessary to burn through the relatively bruisery builds that Wildcard are going to be going for, and I really like that a lot. So I think it's an excellent pickup. I think that's what they were going for. They took advantage of the fact that they were red side by locking in the surprise last counter pick, and it's going to work out well for them if they can play it right.
We're receiving word from our producer that Nocturne is headed towards Dokka in the top lane, which means Bradley, again, one of the best Gwen players on this server, I would argue, is going to be getting that champion into the mid lane. Going up against Strumpus on the Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia obviously might be a little bit difficult to work against Bradley's Gwen, just considering the range with the W will be kind of hard for a lot of these trades to go forward, but Bradley on the Gwen does have a dash with the E, so that Miasma could do some work.
Yeah, and of course, Gwen has the Shroud, which can be kind of a pain for Cassiopeia because it's relatively small, and it can make the Gwen escape a lot easier. Cassio does have the movement speed if she gets the Toxic down, but in this particular lane, the Gwen is relatively good at running away, which is not something you're normally used to in Cassio matchups, because as the Cassio is chasing, firing off Twin Fangs after Twin Fangs, the Gwen is just going to be invulnerable to half of them if she uses her spells right, and that can make this matchup a little less winning for Cassio than most other melee matchups that you'd expect her to have a good time in. So I'm curious to see how it plays out. You know, we're all still getting a feel for Gwen. She hasn't been being played at this level very much, so not everyone knows every matchup. Of course, Bradley has the experience on this pick, has played it a lot, so I'd expect him to be more comfortable as the Gwen player than I'd expect Strumpus to be as the Cassio player playing against Gwen for what's going to be one of the first few times.
Yeah, honestly, it might even be one of the first times he's seen that matchup. I feel like Cassiopeia is not a champion that we've seen super often in the meta. Obviously, always has some level of prevalence throughout, just being that mage that can, you know, dish out a lot of damage into the late game. But when you think of power picks, not always the best thing that we see here. So just judging from the rest of the team, though, from Supernova, I really like that the comp that they set up have a lot of pick potential with the Morgana, Jhin, and the Nautilus, and then have that late game scaling as well.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to point out here is that we do have Varus being picked up by the side of Wildcard. Varus is a pick that has a lot of different builds. In NA, the prevailingly popular build is just full lethality.
Yeah.
It's okay in this game. There is no hyper tank on the side of Supernova to punish a lethality build, but there are a lot of people who can afford to get armor somewhere in their build, somewhere relatively early. The Cassio doesn't mind picking up Azanias. The Nautilus is going to have a little bit of tankiness. The Morgana, of course, always wants Azanias. And when you have like just 40 or 50 armor coming in and everyone's build in a natural, organic way, a lethality build really has diminished value. And I'm curious to see if Arrow is going to be the one in NA and the one person in the NA amateur scene who's bold enough to pull out an on-hit or an AP build to try and throw these armor stacking or at least slight armor buying builds for a loop and actually get some more value out of this champion as the game goes on. Because we've seen him falling off a lot of the time, and that's kind of a decision that every Varus player has to make.
Well, straight from the Korean server, we'll see if Arrow can make his mark down in the bottom lane. We're going to take a short break, but we'll be right back with Game 1 between Wildcard and Supernova. Welcome everybody to Summoner's Rift. Wildcard Red is on your blue side. Supernova is on your red side. This is going to be an exciting best of 3 here in day 2 of Challengers Uprising, Cole. And there's just so much to talk about before the minion spawn.
Yeah, of course, we want to talk about briefly how Maddie has been jungling on this jungle Morgana. Yesterday in game 1 against Radiance, we saw him take a very weird path, where on the blue side of the map, he went from wolves to raptors to red and ganked bot lane at level 2. And it was just so unexpected by Radiance that it ended up getting 2 kills right onto Lynx. It was a really big early game advantage for the side of Supernova. Maddie unafraid to kind of do surprise, weird, suboptimal pathing to try to get those ganks off. Of course, a team that has scouted that out should be able to punish it. So it's curious if he will go for it again, if he's going to do something janky, or if he'll just go for the full clear that Morgana does so well. I think aside from that, I'm not seeing too much that's interesting about this level 1 gameplay. I think everyone's kind of got runes and summoners that make sense. I think the only other thing that we decided that was kind of important was the fact that this is a Nocturne top with a Gwen mid.
Yeah, that is true. The flex have gone that way. Interesting thing to note, actually, I believe it's a lethal tempo on Lynx's Jhin. I don't know about how the tech works with like giving him bonus AD, but it's not something I've seen traditionally. So I'd be interested to see the decision behind that.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting call out. I'm not a Jhin player myself, but I'm imagining like that rune gives you a ton of attack speed. So attack speed gives you AD on Jhin. So if he gets 3 shots and lethal tempo goes active, the 4th one probably comes with a monstrous amount of damage. So I can understand why that would be the rune pickup. It'll be fun to watch and see how it works out in this game. It's a bold take into someone like Arrow, you know. You're trying to prove yourself, earn your stripes. This is an MVP right here. And what are we doing? We're going lethal tempo Jhin to try and make it happen. So that's a fun one.
Taking a look at the mid lane. Oh, nice trade coming in from Bradley, getting all of the ticks, the true damage. Strampus, though, does have the Conqueror working back in on to the mid laner. But now the Conqueror's procced on Bradley's side. They're going to trade the flashes, but Maddie is here as well. The Raptors will reset, but might not matter if you get a kill. The binding will miss, and it looks like they'll escape with their lives for now. But here comes Winston, has the level 3. Maddie does not. But the bot lane for Supernova is here. They're going to flash Bear Slap onto Strampus, and that is going to be first blood going over to the Udyr. Now here comes Chow, going to land the Ignite onto Bradley, and it's going to land the flash stretch line on to Winston as well. Maddie and Chow are chasing after the bear. The binding will miss, but will it even matter? The move speed out of Winston is pretty good, but the deadly flourish from all the way downtown. Lynx picks up an assist, and Maddie goes 2 for 1 with Supernova.
Yeah, and it's a play that starts out looking good for Wildcard. You saw Bradley surprise Strampus by actually walking towards him instead of running away. Dropped that ward down and was very shocked to see the Gwen trying to fight him still. So he ends up having to burn his flash. Bradley trades flashes. Winston's the first one there on the return. He gets the kill, but it is Lynx and Papa Chow rotating up as a level 2 bot lane, and they're the ones that show up and turn the play around, and now they're getting engaged on their way back into lane.
Here comes Action and Arrow. Gonna try and go aggressive onto Chow. Maddie's here, but Lynx is rather far away. It's gonna be Chow dying first, and now Arrow picks up his 2nd kill as well as the Arrow finishes off Maddie. That's the namesake that we're talking about. And now the blue buff for Supernova will get stolen away as Winston heads towards that bottom side.
And that's the perfect punish for the play that Supernova went for, right? It's when you're roaming all the way to mid lane as a bot lane at level 2, you're sacrificing farm, you're sacrificing experience, you're sacrificing time. You don't have a ton of movement speed, you're not getting there very quickly, you're not getting back very quickly. And so when Arrow and Daption get ahead in XP, they decide that they want to cut off Papa Chow and Lynx from getting back into bot lane. Papa Chow gets spotted out in the river, they find him, they engage on him, and it's a really easy conversion for them. They have the levels, they have the gold, or rather they haven't spent the gold, but they have the experience, I guess, and with that they're just stronger. So they get that kill, and Maddie, trying to come to the rescue, finds that Winston was there as well, and he's just outnumbered at that point. The Nautilus is already dead, so it's just not a good fight for Supernova. It's one that they probably should have realized that they had lost. So after getting an advantage in mid lane, they give that advantage right back. Arrow up 2-0 on this Varus. He's going to be able to go back and buy a serrated Dirk, so it will be the lethality Varus once again.
And a large part of the gold lead that has kind of unfolded here for Wildcard Red is not only the kill, but it's also some of the lane advantages that they have. As well as Winston picking up that 3 buff. Dokla has had a strong stranglehold over Cozy in the top lane for the majority of this lane. Cozy finally able to get out of his turret and work towards the push, but now Dokla is just going to continue to happily farm. does use that teleport to pick up a pickaxe, so we'll have that item advantage as well. And talking about the mid lane as well, Bradley does have that CS advantage over Strompus, but now Chao's here on the roam. They're going to land the miasma onto Bradley to prevent the E from going in. The W actually will block away from the hook. That's an interesting interaction. Gwen is going to be so impactful in these sorts of roam denials just with these long range crowd control.
Yeah, you see that text pop up. Gwen is immune. She's basically a fizz from long range. And that can make it really hard to punish her with telegraph spells. You see Bradley just holding on to that vulnerability until the dredge line comes out. It's super free to dodge away from, and it means that that gank is just not going to pay anything for Papa Chow, even a little bit. You can see Maddie actually smiting away the Raptors to deny them from Winston, making sure he doesn't get counter jungled too heavily here, but bot lane not going so good. You know, Papa Chow spent a lot of time roaming up and back down, and that means Lynx is going to forfeit some pressure, forfeit some farm, lose a plate already at 6 minutes into the game.
Yeah, Daption and Arrow doing so much work down here in the bottom lane. One of the strongest bot lanes, I would argue, in the semi-professional scene. Maddie roaming down as well to try and just relieve some of the pressure that has been placed on Lynx due to the amount of roams that Chow has gone for. The first dragon is available. It is that Cloud Dragon, but just because it's a Cloud Dragon, not expecting too much priority to go towards it early.
And while you actually see Papa Chow fishing for some fights, they actually have an XP advantage right now because Sleepy Lynx has been available to farm in bot lane by himself. So some solo XP has put him above Arrow and Daption in terms of that experience. They want to try and leverage that if they can, maybe find a fight, but doesn't look like they're going to do it. You see Arrow and Daption playing very respectfully. Winston now showing up. That's going to be the cue for their aggression.
Yeah, but Maddie is here as well. Both the same level, but Chow is instantly deleted as B player, aka Arrow, picks up his third kill of the game, and now Bradley has roamed down as well, has the needlework available, and that is another kill going over. It's now 5-2 to Wildcard Red.
And it looked like a bit of miscommunication from Supernova. You saw Papa Chow going in, taking that fight, tanking up Arrow and Daption, and Lynx just wasn't quite doing the damage back, and Maddie was working on zoning away Winston and wasn't able to get into the fight either, so Papa Chow goes down immediately, and then the collapse comes in onto Maddie. It's a bit of disconnect. Maybe they realized as soon as Winston was there that they didn't necessarily want to take that fight. They were a little divided as to how to get away from it, but doesn't work out for them. They end up giving over a couple kills, a dragon. We're already at about a 2,500 gold lead here at 7 minutes and 45 seconds, which is a big advantage for Wildcard. Supernova getting behind. This Varus is at 3-0. He's going to be insanely strong in the mid game if he keeps getting kills. He's not even at level 9, which is really his biggest breakpoint, so they've got some time, and Arrow's going to be a monster unless Supernova can shut him down.
The point that you did bring up earlier while we were talking about this draft is that we have this lethality Varus coming through, Cole. So it does have a little bit of a scaling disadvantage while you compare it to something like the Jhin, and as well as that Cassiopeia on Strompus in the middle lane. So it is a little bit scary right now, and the mid game for Wildcard will be incredibly scary combined with Douglas Nocturne, who's doing very well in lane himself. But it's just, the scaling is there for Supernova, but the question is really, can you get there?
Yeah, this is going to be about the tempo being pushed by Wildcard. They are the ones that need to close this game out with the lead they've generated. They're the ones that need to rush a little bit. Now, they can do it cleanly, you know, we're only at 9 minutes, so scaling is still a long ways away, and they're perfectly on pace, but that is something you have to keep in mind. You know, you can't afford to slip up when you're at such a scaling disadvantage. They're going to need to leverage these kills, leverage this advantage they've generated very effectively. Winston already at work on that. He's using this top lane prio, the slight mid lane advantage to go ahead and take a Herald by himself. Daption also roaming up to support him on that.
Yeah, and it looks like they will take it pretty much uncontested as Maddie is in the bottom side of the map. And that's going to be a lot of pressure. You could put it in any one of the 3 lanes, just funneling about a kill's worth of gold over to one of your strong laners that really just helps snowball the lead. Winston getting a little bit dangerously low, but gonna use a smite. He knew it was good the whole time. And right now, that's just another big advantage going over to Wildcard.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see where they're going to use that Herald. They already do have 1 plate bot lane, so if they're able to get another plate and a half or so, then that Herald can knock down first brick very early on in the game, which would be huge for them if they can make it happen. But you can always just send it mid, send it top, use it to try and get some gold on some plates. So the world is kind of Winston's oyster with that one. He's going to have to make a decision about it at some point. I'd imagine with a 3-0 Varus, they'd like to play around that some more, so I'd be expecting Winston to start working his way towards bot side, especially with his camps available down there, and that's going to be a fight if Supernova want to contest it, and that's going to be an issue for them if they just let it go through for free.
Yep, getting that soul accelerated is going to be super huge for Wildcard. Again, their strength is in that mid game, so if they can secure a soul for themselves at around that 25, 26-minute mark, will be really big for them to continue to push their advantages forward and will allow even more of extra damage or healing or whatever it ends up being going towards them as their scaling starts to fall off just a little bit. But that's Chain of Corruption actually used to disengage. Arrow did look like he would be in a little bit of trouble, but does use that ultimate to get out. And Winston is here as well, does have that Rift Herald.
Yeah, of course, Winston showing up to think about dropping the Rift Herald. Looks like he's thinking better of it, not going to go for it.
Yeah.
Which is a interesting decision from him, I think. I personally would have done it, but that's why I'm not playing in this match. Maybe they're going for a fight first.
Yeah, Chow looks like he's in a bit of trouble. The depth charge will be used to disengage just a little bit, but the curtain call is still available for Lynx. No support for the rest of Supernova is down here in this bottom lane just yet. Maddie is just starting to walk down from the river, and it doesn't look like any re-engage from Supernova will be happening. So it looks like both of these teams are going to walk away, lick their wounds, and try to go for the dragon in the minute.
Yeah, they do need to get that reset off right now. You want to be back on the map before the dragon is up so that you can start contesting vision, try and make something happen with it. They did blow a couple key ultimates. Papa Chow's ult probably not going to be available as dragon spawns, or at least not before, so if they're going for picks before that objective's on the map, then they will be stronger ultimate-wise in that opportunity. So that's something that they can go for. Of course, they are just a little stronger in general, so this is, I'd imagine, going to be their dragon regardless. And as you mentioned, you know, this is kind of how these mid-game comps can avoid being outscaled too aggressively, is if you can control the early dragon, start sacking that soul really early, you can get the 4th dragon before the other team comes online. And with a Cloud Dragon already secured, you can guarantee that it's not going to be a worthless soul. It's going to be a very good one that provides these combat stats that will keep them going. That can help mitigate a scaling disadvantage if the game slows down and doesn't get closed out as quickly as they hope it would be.
Yep, and with the Rift Herald now getting placed down in the bottom lane, it makes a lot of sense for Wildcard. They get some pressure down in the bottom lane, really make Supernova go towards the bot lane to pick up the Rift Herald, and with all that pressure going down there, the dragon can be easily started up. So it looks like pretty much guaranteed dragon going over to Wildcard, as Maddie is just going to try and counter jungle a little bit in Winston's top side just to try and get something back.
Yeah, you see Maddie totally aware that the dragon is illegal for Supernova to contest, so he's going to get what he can for it, steal away a buff in a couple camps. And you see Dokla going in to check for evidence of Maddie. He's a little late to the party. That could have been a punish had he gone a little sooner. So it is a traded dragon for those camps, but it's also first brick going over to Wildcard. They dropped the Herald down there. They got that first turret. They got those plates onto Winston and Arrow. And this Varus now going to be very far ahead in gold. You can see he's up almost 1,500 over his counterpart Lynx. And that is a massive amount for 13 minutes into the game.
Yeah, getting those 3 kills, getting that first tower bonus has been super huge for Arrow, who has just done super well in this game, and just, yeah, as you said, almost a full BF sword ahead of his opponent bot laner, and that is just a little bit compared to the remaining of the gold lead here for Wildcard, where they're sitting about 3,500 gold ahead before the turret plates despawn. So they're in a really good position. They utilize their early game really well, and they might look for some more turrets here on the top side.
Yeah, Maddie now in some trouble.
Yeah, here we go. My fight might have begun. That's going to be the Magna Storm onto 2, knocking up 2. Maddie is running, but that's the Needlework finishing it off. And it looks like Chow's going to go down as well. The curtain call will open up. It does look like the option is a little bit low. Dokla going to try to run for the hills as well. Strompus is also here, coming in with the teleport. The Deadly Flourish will only lock up Bradley, who is sitting at just about 67% HP. Winston going to run in here with a chem tank, and it looks like Wildcard want to re-engage. It looks like the crash down will get flashed away from Lynx, trying to do his darndest to deal any damage, but the Shroud from Bradley is just so incredibly useful. Wildcard take the fight 2-0.
Yeah, and that's just an excellent proactive play from Wildcard. They've taken that turret in bot lane. Their bot lane doesn't necessarily need to be there anymore. So they rotate them up. They target the dive. They're going to try and see if they can kill Cozy. Instead, what they end up finding is Maddie between the turrets, and they press the go button. They have the Nocturne, they have the Rel, they have the Varus. Winston can run so fast. They have plenty of engage tools, They use all of them. They get that first kill before Supernova has responded. They get a second kill while Supernova's regrouping. Supernova do good to stop the bleeding there. They don't even lose that turret, which is really good reactive play from them to avoid the total loss on that side of the fight. But still a great play from Wildcard. Tons of summoners burned as well, so that's going to make them stronger for a while here. You can see Supernova only have one flash on Lynx, whereas Wildcard's sitting on basically all of theirs, which means that when this next dragon comes up in 2.5 minutes, it's going to be very, very tough for Supernova to contest it, just as this Rift Herald is going to be very tough for them to contest.
And if you want to just take a look, a visual representation, so to speak, of how far ahead Wildcard is in this game, take a look at the items. 4 mythic items completed for Wildcard. Drompus is just finishing up the Riftmaker, and he doesn't even have boots, being him, he is Cassiopeia. So that is 4 mythic items to 2 at this stage in the game, and just shows how accelerated the builds have been from Wildcard, given the amount of gold that has gone in. Looks like Chow will try to go in onto Drompus. Onto Bradley. It looks like the Death Charge will do nothing, though. That Shroud is going to be something that we talk about a whole lot as casters, and the Rift Herald is going to go down in return as well.
Yeah, I think you're seeing Papa Chow not quite familiar with Gwen. That's what it looks like to me, because keeps trying to go for Bradley. He just burns his ultimate, and that ultimate is extremely easy to counter with a basic ability, and that's exactly what Bradley does. So that's a big cooldown gone. That's a basic cooldown gone for Bradley. The same thing kind of happened on that gank mid. It wasn't the depth charge, but it was the dredge line, and it's just hard for Nautilus to get onto someone like Gwen. It makes her a really effective split pusher. It makes her very good in the 1v2 if she can anticipate what's going on. Looks like Arrow might be getting a little caught out.
Yeah, did get hit by a bunch of crowd control. Wow, big damage onto Daption. The Petrifying Gaze doing a whole lot of work, as that is going to be another kill going over to Supernova, their 3rd of the game, and that is a big pick coming out. Sure, it's only the support, but it's a little bit of pressure that is alleviated for the time being, and that's all you need right now if you're Supernova.
Yeah, and that's a good play by Daption. It's Arrow that gets caught up by the binding from over the wall and then by the Petrifying Gaze as well. Daption has to step up, block the curtain call from the Jhin, and uh-oh.
Oh, it looks like Lynx might be in a bit of trouble. Dokla just gonna jump in and take the solo kill. Sure, he goes down in return, but taking a kill onto the AD carry definitely is super cool, especially in a 1v2 under 2 towers.
Yeah, no, of course, it's another 1-for-1 trade. The assist is going over to Supernova, so they win that on gold overall. It's 150 gold going their way when you consider the entire exchange. And more importantly for them, it's a couple trade kills now where they're getting themselves back into the game. They're trying to fight and scramble. And anytime they can trade kills 1-for-1, when you're the team with the huge scaling advantage, that's amazing because it accelerates the game towards that late game state when everyone has all their items. That's what Supernova are looking for. They want more of that if they can make it happen. Dokla's going to need to play more calculated and reserved. You cannot be diving in and trading yourself 1-for-1 as this Nocturne top lane. That's just not a great trade, even if it's for the AD carry. And now we have a fight breaking out over Dragon.
It looks like that hook was dodged away from once again by Bradley. The Rift Herald will get a proc here, generating a lot of time because Dokla still has not arrived, but here he is now. The Mountain Dragon is spawned here. It's going to be a really crucial one for both of these teams. Wildcard definitely want that soul point. The Rift Herald was doing a decent amount of work, but now that it's dead, a lot of this attention can now be focused on this dragon. Key ultimates are available for almost everybody on Supernova, and it's going to be an exciting fight. That's going to be the dredge line going in onto Daption, but look at Bradley generating so much pressure, and the lights are turned off, which means Dokla's going in. Big Doke flexing its muscles here onto Lynx, and that's the Magnet Storm that we were looking for from Daption. He picks up 3 for Bradley. That's his triple kill, and Chow is the only one alive on Supernova. He's going to run, but it's going to be pretty hard to do so with 3 members of Wildcard here. They're going to stack the deck onto Chow. One more kill will do it, and that is soon to be, wait for it, the ace
There it is.
coming through for Wildcard Red.
And that's just a fantastic fight for Wildcard. Of course, they know they're stronger. They're playing around their item breakpoints here. This is when they want to be team fighting in this game. It is the perfect timing, the perfect opportunity. You see Papa Chow uses the depth charge onto Daption, which was a little confusing. That means that that's not available to peel off someone like Dokla. It's not available to go onto someone like Arrow, who doesn't have the defensive tools to get away from it. And because Wildcard have so many engaged tools, they have so much damage, it's just a matter of finding the opportunity, finding the time, Dokla pops the Paranoia, Daption follows right up with a Magnet Storm, and that's all it takes for them to wipe through the fight. You have Arrow piercing through, you have flank from Bradley. They're just the stronger team here. Supernova did not want to take that fight, especially when they couldn't generate a pick with the depth charge. I think they needed to accept that it was not their play, it was not their fight to take. They tried anyway, they paid the price. That is going to be a massively accelerated gold lead for Wildcard. They're on Soul Point anyway. They're just on Soul Point with 5 free kills on top of that.
Yeah, and it was a 5-for-0 as well. So it just shows how powerful Wildcard are in these team fights, just given the composition that they have. You have Bradley dashing in onto the backline. You could see around that blue buff area while the dragon was still alive. Bradley alone was pushing every member of Supernova back towards their base, and it ended up working super well because Dokla jumped in as well, and they just collapsed on multiple fronts. The pincer worked perfectly, and that is exactly what they needed to pick up the clean ace.
Yeah, and so now, of course, attention is going to turn towards this Baron a little bit. It is not the fastest take from Wildcard because this is a lethality Varus who does not melt it. That can be made up for a little bit with Bradley, who does have the Gnasher's Tooth, going to provide a little more DPS than most mid laners would. But still not the fastest for them. They can't just start this up. That is kind of one of the key ways to throw a game, is start Baron when you're not strong enough to 5v5 while in the pit. But they can't start looking there. They've got the soul in 3.5 minutes, so they're just going to need to wait and play around these objectives, or wait and play around trying to get picks. Here's Bradley on the Papa Chow.
Oh, when you're in the Shroud, the crowd control lands. The only question is, does Papa Chow have enough support from the rest of the team? Maddie is going to try to run, but that's the lights turning off. What will Dokla do? The teleport is coming in, and he's going to use the Paranoia on to the support, and that is Chow going down once again. And that is just another pick going over to Wildcard, who are so far ahead at this point.
Papa Chow, man, he's just got like the rage glasses on. Every time he sees Bradley, he's just going for him, man. He wants that Gwen. He's trying to kill that Gwen. He's not allowed to kill that Gwen, Grapes. He cannot do it. It's just not the Nautilus support's job to be going in on the top laner, or the mid laner, I suppose. I was expecting her to be top. She's mid. Not his job, regardless, and it just is being punished every time. He goes aggressive, he tries to find Bradley. You see Wildcard say, well, that's an illegal move, so we'll show up, we'll get our kill, we'll get our mid turret for our efforts. Now they can reset, spend again, get back on the map. And that is a mistake from Supernova that's punished very effectively by Wildcard. They're just buying time right now, you know, they're not in any rush, so getting free kills and turrets like that while waiting for these neutral objectives to come online and be a little more accessible is a huge win for them.
Oh man, shout out to our producer. Look at the vision in the top side jungle of Supernova. Wildcard have total control over Summoner's Rift, and with the Baron spawned, it's going to be so hard for Supernova to have any idea of when that objective ends up being attacked. And Cole, the question is right now, if Papa Chow isn't the guy who's supposed to kill the Gwen, who is? I mean, there's not that much engage outside of that Nautilus that is super strong as that primary engage, and with Gwen able to block so much of Chow's engage with her W, it's just going to be so difficult for anybody to get any sort of hands on Bradley.
Yeah, I think if you're Supernova, what you need to be doing and need to be looking for is killing Arrow. He is by far the most vulnerable member of this Wildcard team. He is on a Varus with no cleanse, with no QSS. Even if he has summoners, he's just very easy to kill. There is no support there to peel him, to shield him, to make him tankier when you get in him. If you can get onto Arrow on this Varus, you can kill that champion. And that's, I think, what they needed to do a while ago. You needed to realize that, identify him as the squishy target that you could dive onto. I think Strompist is really the person that's going to need to try to answer Bradley in these fights. You need to try and connect a Petrifying Gaze or drop a Miasma at this Gwen's feet to slow her down, stop her from getting onto someone like Lynx, which is a tall order, but it's really the best they've got. The issue when you're down almost 10,000 gold at 23 minutes, it might just be too late. Of course, they're going to try anyway.
Bradley is in a little bit of trouble. We'll see if he actually ends up falling. The needlework will end up doing a lot of healing once it comes through, and he picks up a kill onto Chow. That has been something that I've been saying so much of this game, and he's continuing to fight in the 1v2. Bradley going in with the needles. He finally gets taken down by Strompus, but now here comes the rest of the fight. Arrow's going to snipe out Maddie, and now the Chain of Corruption is going to land onto Cozy as well. There comes Dokla. There comes the rest of Wildcard as they're going to wipe the fight. Sure, you get Bradley, but Wildcard is going to get the rest of Supernova's team. Lynx is the only one left alive, and now with 4 versus 1 in terms of numbers, it's going to be Wildcard headed to the Baron.
Yeah, and this should be their Baron. Maddie was taken down, so there is no smite available. Of course, it's not the fastest Baron in the world, but that doesn't matter when the enemy jungler is dead and they've only got a couple people to contest. Lynx just does not have the mobility or the power to deal with this. Daption going to play zone control to make 100% sure of that. And Wildcard, once again, just punishing aggression. It was Supernova trying to pick off Bradley on the Gwen with the invulnerability, the damage, and the massive lead. That is not the easiest target to go for. That is not the simplest person to kill when you want the pick. You see him outplaying them at the 1v3 to get a kill for himself. He almost kept outplaying it. He was a couple auto attacks away from getting Maddie too. Well, here's a fight on... No, never mind. We're not going to do anything. We're just running away. But in any case, with the outplay, and it just takes so long. Bradley buys so much time for his team that Wildcard was able to collapse. They were able to get there. They were able to win the fight. Now they've got the Baron. Now they can start looking to crack the base, push, and end this game. First, though, we have a Dragon Soul on the map.
Yeah, this is a super important Drake. Wildcard now up more than 10,000 gold, and this soul would almost certainly seal the deal on this game one. Supernova are going to have to do something quick, but it looks like the initiation is coming through from Doklug, using that stopwatch in the middle of 5 members to let the rest of the team clean it up the fight. That is a massive Magnus Sword from Daption, and Bradley and Dokla will clean up the rest of Supernova. Cozy is running, but he's not going to be cozy for long. A triple kill for Big Dokes, and it looks like Wildcard is not even going to need the souls. They're going to march down bottom lane.
Yeah, who needs Dragon Soul when you've got Baron buff, a wave in the right position, and you can push to end the game? That's what they're going to be trying to do here. Maddie is the last one standing. He's going to need to make a true hero play to do it. Don't think he's got it in him. I don't think there's a way that a single Jungle Morgana can deal with the pressure that Wildcard are putting out. This is a very clean game from them, a very clean fight. You see Dokla just going in 1v5. He's got a stopwatch, he's got Asterix. That's all he needs. They're going to knock down the Nexus, and that's a very convincing game one from Wildcard Red.
Yeah, what a game for Wildcard Red. They go up 1-0 in the series on a super convincing victory. And for Supernova, there's a lot to look at that game. The main focus might be towards that draft, looking towards banning away something like Bradley's Gwen, because it looked pretty much unstoppable. Didn't get ganked in the early game very well, and once it started to scale, Bradley just went off.
Yeah, I think the Gwen has to be a ban. They tried to shut it down at every opportunity they got. They were roaming, they were ganking, they were doing what they could. None of it worked. It was, you saw Papa Chow roaming up at level 3, at level 2 even. They had a level 2 roam up into the mid lane. Papa Chow came back up at level 4. They were ganking him in top lane. They gave the 3-on-1 when he was pushing alone. And just none of these plays where they outnumbered the Gwen resulted in anything. That amazing defensive tool in that invulnerability makes it so that Bradley can play around these things very effectively. He can avoid going down when he wants to. He can pump out so much damage. And I think they just invested so much into killing the Gwen and failing that it put them so far behind that they just didn't have a way back into the game. Wildcard Red, of course, playing it right. Bradley, I think my clear MVP of that game, absorbing all of the pressure that he did and still going ahead as far as he did.
Yeah, super incredible play from basically everyone on Wildcard. Arrow was the player that we were just taking a look at before the game started. And sure, he had a really good game, got some early kills, ended up scaling pretty well towards the end of the game. But Dokla and Bradley also doing incredible work. It's going to be back to the drawing board, as we said, for Supernova. They're going to try and turn this around. Not going to want to go down 0-2 against one of the top teams here in Proving Grounds. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with the draft for game 2. Welcome back, everybody. We're here for game 2 between Wildcard Red and Supernova. Cole, it looks like Wildcard decided to go with blue side, so we are going to see the same side selection here for game 2. And I don't think we're going to see the exact same draft, though, because it looks like Supernova are probably going to want to make some changes given how that game went.
Yeah, of course, it's sometimes you can say the draft wasn't the issue, and there was some questionable gameplay in that game that you could look to improve upon. But at the same time, you can go ahead and ban Gwen.
Yeah.
We've learned a lesson.
Yeah.
It's that Gwen isn't quite something that they're comfortable playing around. They were kind of distracted by it a little bit. They tried to shut it down, and they were unable to. Bradley, just an absolute monster on that champion. And after that performance, that if Supernova were to give Gwen or let Gwen fall through bans, it would be Wildcard very content to just first pick that thing away another time. And it was counterpicked, and they game planned around it, and they just couldn't do it. So they're going to need to ban that. That's probably the most obvious thing coming into this game that they're going to look for. But there's a lot of other improvements they could make, and a lot of other changes that we might see them try and go for, with the way top lane went, with the way that jungle matchup went, and even with how bot lane went. Especially because of how the junglers showed up and made that lane swing towards Wildcard's side.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things to take a look at in this draft. Most certainly towards that mid lane. The Cassiopeia did do a decent amount of work, but I mean, nowhere near the amount that was necessary to go up against Bradley's Gwen. And it'll be interesting to see if Strampus tries to go for something a little bit different. Maybe something like the Silas could be good, or along one of his comfort picks like the Azir Rise that we saw yesterday. Either way, the draft will be starting up in just a little bit. And overall, Wildcard probably going to stay pretty consistent with the way that their pick ban went, at least towards the early stages, and it's probably going to be up to Supernova to decide what kind of changes they want to make.
Yeah, of course, Wildcard looked like the stronger team in that game one. I think that was kind of what we expected coming into this series. I don't think Supernova probably had super high confidence that they could win and close out the series and get it their way. We said that they were the underdogs. There's always that chance, you can make it happen. They're not so outmatched that like this series was 100%er in favor of Wildcard, but they are the stronger team. They have more stage experience. They have more pro experience on their rosters, so they were always the favorites. They are always going to be the ones more comfortable here. They showed it in game 1, and if they can keep it going in game 2, then we might be looking at a quick 2-0. Of course, that's not the end of the world for Supernova, because 2 teams in this group get out. They won yesterday, so whoever loses this matchup has a chance to advance come this time next week by playing against randoms. So they can make it happen there.
And I feel like even getting a win here for Supernova would be huge. Wildcard obviously considered one of the heavy favorites, maybe even the best team here in Proving Grounds. But if Supernova, a squad with both young and old players, but a little bit more towards the younger side, I would say, can manage to get a game off of a team with Dokla, Winston, and Arrow, not to mention Bradley and Daption, that would be super impressive for them to at least show that these gods may be mortal. We're headed into the draft. Tristana, Viego, Lucian band away. We got Renekton, Jace, and Rumble band away, but that's the Gwen picked up once again. It looks like, unlike the rest of us, we think that the Gwen was a problem. It doesn't look like Supernova did.
We're watching a replay of last draft here, Grapes. We said the salty run back might not be a good idea, but so far, it's a salty run back.
One. Wait. Okay, there's a difference. There's one. The Doklas Nocturne will not be going. It wasn't the Gwen. It was the Nocturne. That was the problem. But this is really surprising, in my opinion. Seeing Bradley get his hands on that Gwen once more. And once again, all the engaged potential for Supernova so far is super long range. You have the Dark Binding from Morgana and Chao's Nautilus coming in with both of his main engaged tools being super long range. The Shroud, once again, is going to provide so much value for Bradley. And so this is really surprising. It will be exciting to see another Gwen game, especially in Bradley's hands. But the second phase of bans are going underway. It looks like there's going to be 2 champions that won't be the same, as Nocturne and Cassiopeia will be banned away from both of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to agree with this on Supernova's side. They got wrecked by Bradley on the Gwen. Like, they just got dismantled piece by piece. It was not a good showing as they tried to kill him and couldn't. And the only justification for letting him have that champion with first pick again is that like you have some other secret counterattack that like you were confident would work just as well as the Casio, if not better. And also that you can say Papa Chow has learned a very valuable lesson about using his ultimate and roaming up to try and gank Bradley on this Gwen. And you've said, hey, buddy, like, it doesn't work against that champion. You can't do that. Imagine it's a Fizz. And if Papa Chow has improved and learned a whole lot and understands the Nautilus trying to go for the Gwen's just not going to work and he's not going to try it at all with a little bit of coaching between games, then maybe it can happen. Maybe they can address the issue that they had in game one and try and play it better. But that's a big adjustment to make in the middle of a best-of-3 series where you only have 5 or 10 minutes between games. It's going to be a totally different mentality for them if they're going to be able to succeed, and they don't have their preferred counter pick into the Gwen. They're going to have to go somewhere else here.
Well, yep, Bradley once again going to be picking up that Gwen as Dokla will lock in the Gnar. Dakshin also electing to go for this Leona, so a little bit of a difference there. But on the other side, with the Tristana being banned away, Lynx will pick up his Kai'Sa, and the final pick will go towards one of the solo laners. Wouldn't it actually be super opposed to seeing that Lee Sin go mid? This is interesting. Akali getting locked in for Supernova. Cozy's original name was Cozy Shroud, and that Shroud is the Shroud of Akali. So it's going to be interesting to see where Akali ends up going. Obviously, Strampus can play it as well. And this is really nice. I like the melee into Gwen matchup. Really doesn't allow the Shroud to be as impactful. And it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out.
Yeah, I think the Lee Sin mid has a lot more power into the Gwen because he can just dash in and then beat her up. And with the spell vamp from his W, with the lifesteal that he gets and everything like that, he can actually go toe-to-toe with her and fight her as long as he can dodge out on the true damage. So he's a better pickup. Of course, Gwen's can still dodge away from the Sonic Wave, so if he's using his W to get close and then his Q to try and finish closing the gap, that can get denied. Akali, I'm not so sure about. If it's going to go in Cozy's hand, you know, like it's sometimes you just got to go for your comfort pick. And if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But I'm not sure I believe in that one either. It's a bit of an ego play if it's mid lane, you know. You just had a mid lane that lost very hard, so naturally you pick an extremely high skill cap champion that turns matchups into skill matchups and say, hey, like, maybe we got dunked on last game, but we're just going to play better this game. That's what Supernova's asserting with this draft. They let the Gwen go through. They're picking these difficult-to-play champions. They're paying them into weird matchups. And I think they're asserting here that they're just going to play better. That's what this draft is saying to me.
And I really hope that Lee Sin does go mid for all the reasons that you did mention, Cole, especially considering that Lee Sin could actually use that Dragon's Rage to maybe kick Gwen out of the Shroud into somebody like Lynx's arms. Could be interesting. We will, of course, give you an update when we figure out where these champions end up going. And this is a very similar team composition that Wildcard has kind of set up. Have the Gwen, has the Varus, and the Udyr as well. Only difference being in that top lane and in the support position. But they still looked so good with those champions in their hands. And looking towards this game too, with another strong draft, I'm looking to see some more good gameplay out of them.
It is going to be the Lee Sin top is what I'm hearing. So it's going to be Akali mid, which is a unique answer to the Gwen. Of course, she doesn't really get blocked by that Shroud. It's a good answer in that regard because her ultimate, though it comes from a very far distance and carries Akali through that distance, the damage is applied when she goes right through you. So there's nothing one can do about that. It's actually a really interesting way to deal with it, you know? It's if she's untargetable when you're outside that range, find the ability that does damage by taking you through and into that range. Yeah. So I like the thought process behind it. Of course, it is still very execution reliant. It is still going to depend on a matchup that didn't look like it was the most practiced. No one's that practiced against Gwen, so it's going to be a challenge for Strampus to be sure, but I like it a little better than the Cassiopeia. I'm curious to see how it'll work. I think, of course, we saw in game one that the jungle and support pressure just isn't quite there to help him out, so he's going to be on his own, I think, in most situations. I don't think they want a game plan around ganking mid again, so really is going to be Strampus making it happen.
Well, we will see what happens in this game too. Wildcard up 1-0 over Supernova, and Supernova going to go for that Shroud versus Shroud matchup in the mid lane. And we'll see if Strampus and the rest of his team can manage to take a victory against Wildcard. We'll be right back with Summoner's Rift, and we'll see you then. Hello, everybody. Oh, Papa Chow, that hook was
Oh
not
man,
did not hit, but
it's an
doesn't matter.
inauspicious start.
Oh, might be 0 for 1 on the hooks, but still has not missed one on a champion this game. Wildcard Red going up against Supernova here in game 2 of day 2 of Challenges Uprising. Cole, this is going to be an interesting game. Very similar game, I would say. A lot of the same champions kind of coming through, I would say. So maybe some of the same. And if you're Supernova, that's not what you're looking for.
Yeah, this is only 4 champions different from last game. It's the Gnar and Leona for Wildcard, and the Akali and Kaisa for Supernova. I think you have to ask if this is what the problem was in game 1, if this is what was the deal. I'm not sure I think it is, but maybe Supernova knows something I don't. Maybe they're just trying to get in some practice. Maybe they're accepting that this is going to be the best chance they have, is kind of throwing it back, using the experience and the lessons they learned from game 1 to make a game 2 a little closer. So we'll see what they can do. It looks like for the most part, level 1's going to be standard. Maddie once again starting leashless on the top side, so he'll have an interesting path as he does on these Morgana jungle early games. Actually, it is going to be a leash on the red buff, so I take it back.
Sweeper is being traded here, and we'll see who ends up getting the ward battle. It will be Lynx and Chow. But
both wards.
Oh, they both end up going down, and here's the engage. They're going to land the dredge line onto Daption. Not too much damage, but you know, a little bit won't hurt. Daption does have that time warp tonic, so he's going to heal up rather quickly. And right now, things are just going rather standard here. It looks like the clears for both of these junglers will be very similar, as we saw in that first game. Just going to probably go for that full clear into potentially a crab or so.
Yeah, and so you see a little bit of a level 1 win for Lynx and Papa Chow. They were stronger there. They're going to burn an extra potion or 2 off of Daption, so Leona going to be at risk of being poked out a little bit harder, but you know, that's a very slow, steady process. You have to make it happen pretty quickly before they recall, so not a big deal either way. Looks like the junglers are both going for relatively full clears here. You see Maddie's taking his entire red side jungle, now pathing down towards his wolves. There's a caution ping on the wolves. I think that's probably Winston calling out that that's where he should be right now. Winston also going for the full clear, actually ahead of Maddie. Udyr, this is why he's one of those top junglers, is because he can clear just as quickly as the best of them, so he'll be a little bit ahead for the time being, and both these junglers are going to be looking towards bot lane soon enough if they want to go for a gank.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see some fun interactions here with these two junglers on that Scuttle Crab. It is going to be spawning in about 15 seconds or so. Interesting thing to note, Winston did end up using that smite, so his summoner spell will not be available for that crab if it ends up being contested. Maddie is finishing up his full clear as well. Now that they are both level 4, both are going to look for potentially some play into the bottom lane. Winston is running here because Daption has gone in. Lynx is under heavy fire, has both summoners available. Is going to use the flash, is going to use the heal, but the flash from Winston will secure first blood, but the teleports are coming in. Chow is dangerously low, does have the black shield on him, but Cozy has arrived to the party, going to take down the MVP in Arrow, as Maddie is the one who ends up picking up that kill. The Sonic Wave will miss, and Bradley coming all the way down from middle lane will secure another kill onto the Supernova top laner. It's 2 for 1 in favor of Wildcard Red, as they get an advantageous trade in the bottom lane.
You can see a couple key skill shots from Supernova just not connecting when they would be a big deal. Maddie could not connect the Dark Binding. Cozy could not connect the Sonic Wave. And with those key Q abilities not connecting, you're just missing out on a key part of both of those champions' kits. And it means that they're not going to be able to win that skirmish, especially when Bradley, with the priority that he's generated, is able to roam down and provide a numbers advantage in that fight. So Wildcard get the first blood. They get a second kill on top of it. They're going to be ahead here. The kills going on to Winston and Bradley. Also probably a little worrying, especially on Bradley. You know, we spent a lot of time talking about the Gwen, and we're at 4.5 minutes, and it's already got a kill. So, uh-oh.
Yeah, uh-oh indeed. And it's been interesting to see the kind of deviations that Winston has been making from this last split. I feel like in the spring, he focused a lot of his attention towards Dokla, but this split, now that you have Arrow, I mean, it's really hard not to focus your attention into Arrow, but Dokla has done a good job in lane pretty much by himself, doing a lot of good work against Cozy. Did have the counter pick in this matchup, so it's just interesting to see how that Solifide top duo of last split is kind of shifting a little bit here and now on a different team.
Yeah, of course, when you get the bot lane ahead and when you get the dragon secured is usually when it's easiest to show up in the top lane. So I'd imagine he'll get there soon enough. Cloud Dragon is on the map. That one does hurt in the early game. It's the one that kind of beats you up the most when you try and go for the solo. So I'd imagine it's hard to take it 5 minutes without some support from your bot lane, so that we'll see if they can make it happen that way. Maddie going to be kind of shadowing his bot lane in the lane here. Here comes the fight.
Yeah, another engage coming through from Chow. The Black Shield was a little bit late, but Daption is going to get hit up by the binding. Going to Zen Flame forward. Winston is here as well, so has to be a little bit careful. Our Supernova, they're going to stun up Chow. Winston going forward with the Phoenix Dance, the Dredge line out, and that's going to be a kill going over to Daption as Lynx picks up his first kill of the game. And now a teleport from Stromp is going to come in. Going to use his Stroud to get a little bit of movement speed. Going to hit that Shuriken, and that's a double kill going over to the Supernova bot laner. A huge win for them in that bot side.
Yeah, and this time it is Supernova finally getting the better of Wildcard in a big extended fight. It costs them a little bit. There are plates and minions being taken up by Bradley in the mid lane. Winston going to try and deny Strampus from getting there. He's in a lot of trouble, actually.
Ooh, yeah, the Needlework is also available for Bradley if things go awry. Strampus is in a whole lot of trouble under his turret. The last ultimate tick will do. Bradley going to get out with the Conqueror healing. Very, very well done, as he's now 2 kills on this Gwen. Very, very scary stuff.
Yeah, and what started as a really good trade for Supernova looks a little more suspicious now. They got the 2 for 0 in bot lane, but they didn't go to the dragon, so they weren't able to secure that. They lost a plate mid. They didn't get a plate on bottom. And then you give another kill over to Bradley, who on this Glen is now up in CS, up 2 kills, already has a bounty. And I'm really scared about what Bradley's going to do, because he was a monster in game 1, and he's even more accelerated here in this game too. So he's just making it happen. I think that was a bit of a misplay from Strampus. He was in his Shroud, and he just left it a little earlier than he needed to. He was trying to clear the wave, but he didn't quite get it, and that meant that the turret wasn't being tanked up immediately on that dive. It gave Bradley and Winston the window they needed to get that kill, and now Winston gonna turn his attention to this bot side river. Maddie clearing his camps on the top side, might expect this dragon to finally go down.
Yeah, a lot of pressure being generated by this wildcard bot lane, despite Arrow and Daption being a combined 0, 3, and 4. Not going to matter too much, though, if you have some kills into your other players. And Bradley already doing so much, the dragon goes over. Already has those Mercury treads as well, so even if any of that crowd control ends up hitting from Maddie or from Chow, going to be pretty inconsequential, I would say. And it's even hard to hit any of that as binding goes wide.
Yep, and with the dragon being going over, that means that top lane now on the menu for these junglers. They can finally show their faces there without immediately losing an objective. And right on time, right on cue, here comes Maddie.
Soul Shackles have been used. Dokla has no flash, has no life, as Maddie will pick up the kill. But now Bradley is here. Doesn't have the ultimate just yet, but Maddie is running the wrong way. Gonna go straight into the arms of Winston. The bear will stun up the kill as Bradley gets another one on a silver platter.
Yeah, and 3-0 Gwen. It just keeps happening. He just keeps finding kills. He's rolling, he's going for things. 4-0 Gwen might be in the cards, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it looks like that's it. 4 kills on to Bradley as Cozy goes down again into the side lane.
Yeah, that's a red buff Gwen. Cozy just kind of walking forward, being a little disrespectful. You know, the object permanent's not quite there. He's like, yeah, the Gwen was just here, but I can keep pushing, right? There's no way she's going to 1v1 me. And guess what? Gwen shows back up and says, hey, you're a little pushed up. I'm going to go ahead and 1v1 you. And when I have 3 kills and a red buff, you're way weaker than me, so I can get that kill. And Bradley just making it happen. He's going to collect another plate with the pressure from that kill. You see Winston going to take up the Rift Herald, so Wildcard quickly snowballing this game in the exact same way they did last game. You're going to see Bradley go back to base. He's sitting on Fountain, doesn't actually get his Mythic. I was curious if he was waiting to complete that with 4 kills. Would have been crazy early. Just a pink ward, no big deal. Dokla swapping mid to get a plate for himself.
Yeah, beautiful rotations coming out from the solo laner tier of Wildcard. Dokla gonna pick up the wave that Bradley ended up missing out on, getting a couple of plates himself, and will miss a little bit of CS on this top side, but I would say that gold and XP are worth it for him. Bradley gonna make his way back mid wherever it all started, gonna try and continue to scale up. Yeah, that mythic item hasn't been completed yet, but it will be rather soon.
Yeah, now if you're Supernova, you already got to be a little worried. The scaling advantage that they had last game isn't quite as certain in this one. You know, they don't have a bot lane scaling lead. They don't have the mid lane scaling lead so much. Akali's fine in mid to late game, but she's not the same thing as a Cassiopeia. And that means that they can't quite play this the way that they would have hoped to have played last game. You know, sitting back, turtling, and stalling is less of an opportunity or an avenue towards victory for Supernova. They need to make things happen here. And that's a challenge, you know? Bot lane's behind, they can go there, but it seems like every time Maddie shows up in a lane, it's Bradley who's there to answer on the Gwen and just pick up free kills.
Free kills indeed. Now sitting at 4-0 and 0, as we said before. Despite all the roaming, still has a CS lead over Strumpus. And now, looks like things have kind of settled down for just a little bit. The next dragon will not be spawning for another 2 minutes or so. And yeah, for now, just some more clearing. Maddie might actually go for a play here onto Doko. The Gnar will be going mini just in about a couple of seconds. A beautiful kick from Cozy, buying just enough time to save his life. And Maddie will pick up his 3rd kill of the game. 100% kill participation on the Morg so far.
Yeah, that's a great gank, and that's a great heads-up play. You know that Dokla has no flash. He goes Mega, and Maddie's there to punish the aggression. The issue, Winston's mid lane to punish the fact that Maddie showed on the map. And with a Herald in his inventory, Grapes, there goes mid turret.
And there goes even more gold into Bradley's arms. It looks like Wildcard are pulling all of their eggs into the Bradley basket, hoping and praying that he is enough to carry this game, as the rest of the lanes aren't doing as well. But it doesn't really matter if you have a Gwen on your team, as we saw in game 1.
Yeah, and so with the dragon spawning in a minute, you're going to see these teams starting to reset. Arrow and Daption going back. They're going to get some buys off, get a couple pink wards. They want to show up and get this dragon. We saw them dragon stacking in game 1. They're going to do the same thing here in game 2. And once again, because the Cloud Dragon was the first one they secured, the soul guaranteed to be one that provides a bigger scaling advantage. So it's going to be either Infernal or Ocean. You don't mind either of those souls when it comes around to that. So that's going to be an issue for Supernova, you know? They're going to need to contest this at some point. They're only down 1,500 gold right now, and if they can take a fight where Bradley isn't impactful, that's really where that entire gold lead for Wildcard is. So they stand a chance at winning fights, you know? They're not out of this. They're just going to need to make it happen. They need to find the right angle. They need to find the right picks. And this is kind of already turning into a pivotal moment in this game. This is where they need to decide, are we just going to let them start dragon stacking? Are we going to surrender pressure? Or are we going to fight? Maddie going to be zoned out of the river, so it's going to be hard for them to take that fight route.
Yeah, and once again, 2 dragon lead. It seems like going to go over to Wildcard Red, as they are the only ones here into the pit. Winston and the rest of his team will secure that 2-0 advantage, as it will be either in Fire or Ocean Soul. So 2 of the strongest souls in the game potentially available for them.
Yep, and now we're going to go back to a bit of a slow gameplay. You know, this isn't quite as aggressive or kind of fight heavy as we saw last game. I think it's because Papa Chow has actually just stayed bot lane for a lot of this. You know, there is no bot lane roaming up at level 2. There is no Nautilus trying to go and kill the Gwen, knowing that his dredge line can be dodged away from. So I like that adaptation. It means that the bot lane is staying ahead. You don't see Lynx just being abandoned and left to get far behind and give away a lot of plates. Bot lanes this time around, even on plates, in fact, and ahead on gold, or on farm for the Lynx. Now we have a fight going around this red buff.
Bradley going aggressive alongside Winston onto the red buff. It looks like Maddie is taken down pretty low, but Strumpus is coming in here with the perfect execution. But the rest of Wildcard is here to try and collapse. They are 5 strong in the Supernova jungle. A double kill going over to Arrow, and it just might be a 3rd, as Strumpus is going to be stuck under his inner tower. Dokla will secure the kill, and despite being in behind enemy lines, Wildcard go 3 for 0 in the fight.
And that's a play that Wildcard's allowed to make because they brought Arrow and Daption up. They sent them up into that side of the jungle. They sent them there to make it happen, and they had the backup. They knew they had the numbers. They knew there was no way that Papa Chow and Lynx were going to be able to get there. These are 2 bot laners. There's no teleport over there. And it just seemed like Supernova didn't respect that. Either they weren't aware or didn't cross their mind, or they just didn't think that that would be where that Varus and Leona were. And so the fight, as it goes a little slow, they don't get an immediate pick. They don't have that burst damage. Eventually, the Varus and Leona show up, and the fight's just scuffed. It's unwinnable for them. It's a 3-on-5. You can't win that. Nor can Strumpus win this one.
Well, yeah, 3v1. Not going to look super hot for Strumpus. Going to try to use that shuriken to dash over the wall. Might actually end up doing a decent amount of damage onto Daption, but doing a very good job is the Leona in terms of zone control. Dokla will pick up another kill, and Strumpus goes down for the 3rd time this game.
And I'm not sure what was going on there. Maybe he didn't expect them to stay on that side of the map. Maybe he just wasn't anticipating that there would be that many people there. But you never want to find yourself in a 1v3. Akali, as slippery as she is not that slippery. Can't get out of that one when being chased down by an Udyr and a Leona. So just no good. It's just a free kill. That's a bit of a mistake. Wildcard getting a little extra gold, and then they're going to rotate down mid. You can see Winston maybe thinking about engaging. Bradley walking up. That's going to be what makes this play happen.
Oh, yeah, Maddie just forced to flash preemptively. It might not even be enough, though. Bradley going to come in, get hooked up by Chow for just a little bit, but that's a huge amount of damage going on to Maddie. The Supernova jungler is down. Bradley getting dangerously low, but does have the Shroud to try and stay alive. Lynx is trying his hardest with the Killer Instinct, but will not end up taking down Bradley. That's going to be Cozy picking it up. But will it even matter? Now stuck in a 3v2 or the rest of Supernova. Arrow is somehow still left untouched. Drop is going to use the perfect execution back, but it looks like Arrow will continue to rein in the damage as Arrow picks up 2 kills with the arrows.
And that is a disaster for Supernova. Dokla wasn't in that fight. There was no Gnar there at any point in time. The fight overall was a 4v5 where Supernova had more people. But because Wildcard were more coordinated, because they were the ones that took the play and made it happen themselves, at no point in that fight were they actually outnumbered. They got the pick on the Maddie to start the fight off. Bradley bought so much time so that by the time he went down, the fight was just won for the rest of his team. And that was what Wildcard did, is they just cleaned up. They took advantage of that. They took advantage of the damage that the Gwen had done. Lynx had to burn the Killer Instinct to try to finish off the Gwen. It didn't even work. And then Cozy flashing in and using his cooldowns to make that kill go down means that they just didn't have enough tools at their disposal to win the rest of the fight. The end result is a 5-for-1 ace, as well as a free turret for Wildcard in that top side of the map. That is huge for them. That is so much gold, so much pressure being bought over to their side. It's just going to make everyone that much bigger. And even though they give away a shutdown, they should be extremely happy with that play.
And Bradley once again doing some more work onto his opponent mid laner. Daption is going to miss his Zenith Blade, but it was only to make sure that Bradley picked up the solo kill. You can just put that in, solo kill Strompus onto your resume. Either way, another big kill going over to the Gwen. Maddie now getting kind of hit up by Dokla, but turret will go down on the top side in return. Supernova making the most out of a pretty bad situation.
Yeah, you know, they did actually get the Herald on the backside of that play, but can they get out of here? Winston and Dokla want it.
Black Shield was used late. Winston gonna run in and run straight out, but Dokla, can he get the Mega Gnar? He does. Stuns 2 people into the wall, and now Maddie is stuck in that duel that he cannot win. Daption is gonna land the Solar Flare onto Chow as well, and the kickback will stall a little bit of time onto Winston, but Daption is straight into the front line of Supernova's. Cozy will go down. Lynx is gonna try to assassinate somebody, but he has no damage. A double kill going over to the former MVP as Arrow picks up 6 kills in this game, and now it looks like Chow will not be long for this world. Winston is just going to use the smite for the BM. Killing spree for him, 19-6. Cole, we were talking about being slow. It is nowhere close to being slow. 25 kills in 18 minutes.
Yeah, and I think at that point, if you're Supernova, that's where you start to acknowledge that maybe it's a little doomed. That was a fight where it was a 4-on-4, so it was even numbers, but Bradley was the one not in that fight. The Gwen that has all the kills, all the gold, all the money was the one person not there. If you're Supernova, that's a dream scenario, you know, if you can avoid fighting against that turbo-fed Gwen, you kind of want to, and it just doesn't work for them anyway. Dokla gets a good slam. Winston was there to be annoying, play zone, do damage, and Arrow pumped out the damage that he needed to. And with those 4, they just made that fight happen. They get all those kills. They get themselves a dragon. And Bradley's just been pushing bot lane the whole time. He does like, good job, team. I don't need to be there all the time. I might be carrying, but we've got some other carries. Winston's carrying, Arrow's carrying. It's a 10k gold lead at 19 minutes, and Wildcard now in such solid control of this game. It's hard to imagine a way by which Supernova can come back.
And it's interesting just in terms of the general state of amateur at the moment. Wildcard, of course, sitting at one of those top slots, but Supernova were considered to be another team that could push for a top spot, maybe getting a position at Proving Grounds, and just seeing them get such basically obliterated right now is very surprising. Chow gonna get hit up by the Chain of Corruption, and he is in a bit of trouble as well. Winston is gonna run him down, hit him up with the bear slap. The arrow is gonna miss, but probably won't even matter too much. Winston is gonna continue to go in, and Daption is here, but it's just gonna let Winston finish the job himself. That is the 4th kill onto the Udyr.
Yeah, and actually it's the Solar Flare missing as well, but Winston plays it right. The Black Shield comes down to allow Papa Chow to try to escape. Winston holds on to the bear slap. It has that internal cooldown, so you wait for the black shield to disappear before going for that stun. And though Papa Chow is a little slippery and he can get away from arrow, he can't get away from everything and everyone. He's going to go down regardless. And that's just another free pickup. It's going to buy pressure mid. You see Arrow laying down the hurt. Goodbye Lynx's health bar. You got a recall, buddy. Another one of those arrows, and that Kai'Sa will be dead.
And it's insane to see how Arrow is able to play this game so well. Sure, went down 0-2 early on, but take a look at him now. Went from 0-2 to 6-2, and with 10 assists to his name to boot. And now with him doing so much damage as a secondary carry, looks like Wildcard is going to try to start up this Baron.
Yeah, and this should be their Baron. They are so strong that they can go ahead and do this. They have Bradley pushing bot lane, trying to generate the split push pressure, see if maybe he can pull 1 or 2 people. Doesn't look like that's what's happening. You actually see Maddie working his way over, but it might be a little late. They see it happening. It's going low.
Oh! Cozy got it! Sonic Wave will secure the Baron! Don't know if it really matters all too much as Maddie goes down in return, but what a steal coming out of the former 100 next top laner. Cozy doing his best to try and keep his team in the game.
Yeah, that was 51 HP. Grapes. They smoked 51 HP early, and Cozy just connects with the miracle Q. So sometimes it be that way. You smite a little early, you start rushing, you start panicking, you see the enemy jungler come in. 50-50s make fools of us all. So Wildcard are going to lose that, but they're going to get a kill. They're going to have the pressure on the back end of it, and we'll see what they can do with that.
Killer Instinct, beautiful from Lynx, and they end up actually taking down Dabshin, and now this could be a fight that Supernova could look for. Cozy is trying to do some damage here onto the front line. Chain of Corruption will land onto Strompus to zone him away, and Wildcard are finally on the retreat as Supernova get another kill onto Dabshin, and they are going to try and stay alive for just a little bit longer.
Yeah, and sealing the Baron gives them at least a breath of life in this game. That means that they're not going to be shoved in and losing on this Baron push, but they are still treading on dangerously thin ice. Even with the Baron going over, they're still down 9k gold. There is still a soul point here to worry about, so Supernova going to need to execute perfectly from here on out. We'll see if they can leverage the Baron at all, or if this is more of a denial Baron. I think you still have to favor Wildcard by a massive amount in this game. It's just not the 100% that it was had they stolen, or had they secured that Baron rather than having it get stolen away.
Yeah, and it just buys a little bit of time for Supernova to just have a little bit more pressure on their side, and they're going to need it because in 1 minute, that Infernal Soul will be on the table for Wildcard to try and clear away. So have to be really careful if you're Supernova working around this bottom side of the map. Going to try and generate some pressure. You can see Cozy taking down that turret, and now with the attention focused onto the Dragon Pit, it's going to be pretty scary to see if Wildcard can try and make a push. They're going to try to stun up Cozy. Winston is going to get the stun down, and Strompus is trying to go in off the back line. Misses the perfect execution, but it doesn't matter because he takes down Arrow in a 1-for-1. But now it's a 4-for-4, and Bradley is still alive. And Needlework is going to go through. Sleepy Link's going to dash away with the Killer Instinct, and Bradley is running low, but it doesn't even matter because he picks up a double kill. They're going to try and hit up Winston with the hook, but it doesn't matter. Into the wall. The ace coming through for Wildcard. Sure, they don't get the Baron. Sure, they don't get the soul, but they will definitely take the base and go 2-0 on the series.
Yeah, it's exactly what we saw last game where they get the soul point, they force Supernova into a fight, and though Strompus does his best, he trades his life 1-for-1 for Arrow. The Gwen damage and the Gnar from Dokla are enough to make that fight happen. It doesn't look like they're going to end the game right now. The death timer's a little too short, and the wave not quite as pushed as it had been last game, but they will get the inhibitor. They're backing off to the soul, and I think, though it's not happening right now, Grapes, that pretty much spells GG.
Okay, I was a little bit overzealous again on that play. It was hype, you know, the 5-man ace into the push, but I mean, maybe if they had the Baron buff, things would have been a little bit differently, gone a little bit differently there, but it doesn't matter. Still, the Infernal Soul going over to Wildcard, and it looks like they're just going to try and just fill out some paperwork before the end of the game.
Yeah, and you know, if you thought Bradley was scary as a 10-1-6 Gwen, try Bradley as a 10-1-6 Gwen with an Infernal Soul on top of that, and that's going to be nightmare fuel. That's just really, really scary. And I mean, there's some other people who are really scary. There's a lethality Varus in this game. It's kind of easy to forget when you've got that Gwen popping off so hard, but Lethality Varus loves an Infernal Soul. It really makes his poke hit that much harder. It makes him horrifying. It makes him terrifying. He is the thing that goes bump in the night, and he is going to come for you in this game. Supernova need to do whatever they can to stay alive. I'm not sure they have a way. They're just going to need to find picks, advantageous fights. It's going to take some misplays from Wildcard, and Supernova need to be in the right position to capitalize on that.
Yep, less than 2 minutes until that second Baron spawns. Hopefully, Wildcard can secure it rather cleanly, unlike they did in that first event about 5 minutes ago. But with the Infernal Soul up, just means so much pressure is available for them in all of the lanes, as that extra bit of damage definitely packs a punch, especially while you're up about 10,000 gold.
Yeah, and you see Bradley's going to be pushing top lane. They're kind of baiting him a little bit by sitting in the river or in the bushes nearby, but they're just going to go ahead and start sieging this. Who needs Baron to siege? Scrapes, just take the turret.
I mean, 10,000 gold is basically the same as a Baron buff, I would say. That's going to be the base. Once again, cracked open. The second inhibitor is under fire here for Wildcard Red. Supernova are going to have to make a move soon, as it looks like the Nexus turrets might be the next target, or Wildcard might elect to just regroup, recalibrate, and recharge as they head towards that Baron in less than a minute.
Yeah, you know, with Baron spawning soon and the bot wave not in position, sticking around inside the enemy base to try and take the Nexus turrets when they're all alive with no Baron buff is kind of a good way to throw. That would be the kind of mistake that Supernova would be looking to capitalize on. Sometimes you can make it happen anyway. I'm not sure Wildcard's that far ahead, so here comes Bradley on the flank, though.
Gonna land the needlework onto multiple members. The Zonia's by so much time, and here comes the rest of Wildcard. Bradley taken dangerously low, but the healing with the Conqueror, with the Riftmaker, with everything is too much. Dokla gonna jump in with the Mega Gnar. Doesn't have the ultimate using just yet. They do take down Daption in return, but the Gnar will drag many members of Supernova back. Winston is getting dangerously low, might die for the first time this game. Lynx ends up getting one kill onto Dokla. They get another onto Arrow, and now it's a 2v2, so Supernova are holding their ground, but it's Bradley and Winston, and the one who is very important is Bradley here. Winston is going to land the Flash Bear slap on to Maddie, and Bradley will try and end this game himself.
Yeah, he does have the Nashor's too. He's going to be able to get this one Nexus turret. Cozy is the one that has to save the game. He's going to be going in. This is a challenge for this Lee Sin, and Bradley's healing so much. Look at his health just climbing back up, making this that much harder. Doesn't look like he's going to stick around, though, especially with Strothus respawning.
Very smart play from Bradley, but still, it's Supernova extending this game just a little bit further, just when you think that Wildcard are going to walk away with it. Supernova come out. They take down Arrow there in the fight. They get a couple more kills. They go 4 for 4 in what seemed like a presumably doomed situation, but they end up still managing to stay alive, and still, with the Baron spawning now, with the Elder Dragon spawning in about 2 minutes, may have a little bit more time to try and scale up.
Yeah, you do have the double inhibitor down, which makes contesting this Baron very difficult. I mean, they are still just dramatically weaker, but they're making it happen. You know, that's a dive from Wildcard. They were trying to end the game with that fight. It wasn't the optimal conditions for them, and Supernova played it well enough to avoid going down. They were there, they countered it as well as they could, they focused the right targets, they focused the targets tanking the inhibitor turret, and they made sure that they could hold on for dear life, but they just need to keep holding on. This is a fight with zero wiggle room, zero margin for error. They didn't error there, but now there's even less margin because this is a Baron going right over to Wildcard, no contest available, and that just makes it that much more of a challenge.
Yep, Cozy's sitting there farming in the bottom lane instead of going for his second Miracle Steal of the day. And that's just an easy Baron going over to Wildcard Red, who are going to try it again here in the Supernova base. It looks like a lot of them are a bit out of position. None of them are here to really try and defend. But now, with the bases coming through, Supernova are going to try to fight this 5v5.
Yeah, they need to take a fight. They will get bled out if they sit back and wait. They're going to need to find an angle. They're going to need to find someone to pick. Arrow, of course, still a vulnerable target. He is still that immobile Varus with no Kench, no Braum, no Enchanter to keep him healthy, but can they find the angle?
Gotta be careful if you are Supernova. That is Dokla just gonna stun up the tank as Cozy gets chunked down immediately by the Arrow. And it's a little bit scary right now. Maddie chunked out a little bit, but the Nexus towers are falling. The Nexus is exposed. Supernova have to go right now or the game is over. Lynx is going to dash in with the Killer Instinct into 5 members, but the Udyr will stun up the Kaisa. Looks like Strophus will go down in return. Cozy falls as well, and that is finally the game. That was a banger. 46 kills in 30 minutes, but Wildcard takes the series 2-0.